see the boys, Alabama Prisoner Profiles. What's going on with y'all, man? Oh, hold on. Shout out to all of y'all. I appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all go check out that last episode. We just dropped 46 on Mr. Justin Ramey, aka J Money, where medical neglect leads to a prisoner's release from the Alabama Department of Corrections. Shout out, dude, right? They got at me in the email, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to you, bro, you know what I'm saying? I responded, wish I responded sooner. We pushing forward, y'all. Make sure y'all continue to get at me in the email, TikTok, Facebook, you know what I'm saying? All that. Make sure y'all hit this notification bell so y'all can know what's going on. You see what I'm saying? Now, today, as I say, try to keep this shit Alabama, but this story here is developed over the weekend and coming out of the Southeast, and this state actually touches Alabama, so I'm gonna go ahead and speak on it, you know what I'm saying? Because nobody else has spoken on it. I was expecting to see some videos on this made by people, but I haven't seen it yet. So we have a rookie correctional officer that has been stabbed to death over the weekend, and another inmate was also assaulted during this incident, and we're gonna get into the story right here. A correctional officer at Smith State Prison was assaulted and killed on duty while escorting 2 inmates from the prison dining hall on Sunday, according to the Georgia Department of Corrections. Quote, "The entire Georgia Department of Corrections team is mourning the loss of one of our own as we collectively express our deepest condolences to Officer Clark's family and friends," Commissioner Tyrone Oliver said in a press release by the Georgia Department of Corrections. "We will support them as they navigate this tragedy over the coming days, weeks, and months." It happened at Smith State Prison in Glenville. The Georgia Department of Corrections says Officer Robert Clark, 42, was taking 2 inmates from the prison dining hall when an inmate assaulted him with a homemade weapon, according to the press release. They say he was attacked from behind. Clark, who had been working in the Georgia Department of Corrections since April, about 6 months, was taken to the hospital where he died. One inmate, Leighton Lester, will be charged in the assault and death of Clark, the press release said. All right, now who is Lester Leighton, right? I was able to gather his appeal from the internet for the free ski, right? Here we go. The Georgia Supreme Court has upheld a murder conviction for a man sentenced in a 2007 Tipton death. The High Court upheld the conviction of Leighton Lester, who was 15 when his great-aunt was killed in a robbery. Lester was convicted of malice murder and other crimes in connection to the shooting death of Lorene Bozeman, which happened in April 2007. In December 2009, Lester was sentenced to life in prison for malice murder, a concurrent term of 20 years for armed robbery, and terms of 20 years for burglary to run consecutively to the murder sentence, and 5 years for the firearm count to run consecutively to the burglary sentence, according to the court. Yeah, they smoked the shit out of him. So Lester filed an appeal and claimed, quote, "The trial court erred in admitting statements he made to law enforcement after Lorene's death and in denying his motion for mistrial arising from the presence of an alternate juror during jury deliberations." According to court's opinion, Lester also filed a lawsuit against the Department of Corrections that I found on the internet and got the facts of that here. Oh, also his appeal was denied, by the way. Plaintiff contend the defendants violated his right during an incident on July 9, 2015. On that date, plaintiff returned to his cell, this is Lester, from his shower, placed his hands in the tray flap of his cell so that the officer could remove the plaintiff's handcuffs. However, after removal of the handcuffs, plaintiff refused to move his hands in order to prevent the officer from being able to secure the tray flap. So he took the flap hostage. Then, plaintiff threw 3 cups of feces into the dorm area. Plaintiff's roommate returned from the shower. Plaintiff again refused to allow officers to secure the tray flap. Then, due to the commotion in the dormitory, more officers were called into the area. Plaintiff pulled up the tray flap so it would look secure. However, defendant correctional officer Williams noticed that the tray flap was unsecured and tried to secure it. However, to prevent it from being secured, defendant Williams tried to secure the tray flap while plaintiff's arms was in the tray flap but was unsuccessful. Defendant Captain Mobley told Defendant Williams to stop. Another correctional officer, Officer Burke, then came to plaintiff's tray flap, and plaintiff tried to, quote, snatch his mace off his belt. Another officer, Lieutenant Johnson, was then able to secure the tray flap in the open position. Johnson then talked to plaintiff, Layton, and plaintiff relayed that he had a problem with ants in his cell and needed the cell to be sprayed for bugs. Defendant Captain Mobley then interrupted the conversation and stated that plaintiff and his roommate were not eating until Defendant Mobley said they could. Plaintiff told Defendant Mobley that if he and his roommate were not fed, they would, quote, tear up the cell. After plaintiff's roommate did not receive his lunch tray, plaintiff and his roommate, quote, started tearing up the cell. Then plaintiff and his roommate set a fire in the cell. One officer poured water at the bottom of the cell door, but there was a fire at the top of the door. Defendants Williams and Hill and another officer were outside the cell door. These officers sprayed a fire extinguisher through the side of the door. Defendant Hill called out plaintiff and his roommate, quote, "Are y'all sick in there? Oh, are y'all okay in there?" The officer sprayed the fire extinguisher twice. Plaintiff and his roommate stood at the back of the cell for at least 10 minutes until the room was cleared. Then, quote, sometime later, plaintiff began to beat on the door of his cell with a pole off of one of the beds. The unit manager Chambers came to his cell door. Plaintiff explained the incident to the unit manager and told him his roommate had not been fed. Unit manager relayed Defendant Mobley stated plaintiff and his roommate would be fed. During this time, Defendant Officer Williams was constantly coming up to the cell door, opening the top flap window, stating, quote, "Now look at your stupid ass, Katie, breathe, dumb motherfucker," and laughing, unquote. At approximately 6 p.m., which was around the time of a shift change, Lieutenant Gotti and Lieutenant Cloud spoke with plaintiff about the incident. They then conducted a strip search of plaintiff and his roommate and moved them to another cell. Plaintiff asked about medical evaluation, and Defendant Cloud responded, quote, "Ain't no medical." Like CB, ain't no goddamn. Plaintiff and his roommate remained in the, quote, strip cell, where plaintiff was clothed in only his boxers and his shower shoes until 1:30 a.m. Plaintiff contends that defendants violated his constitutional rights by slamming his arm in the tray flap, by spraying the fire extinguisher at him, and by failing to obtain the proper medical care for him. Plaintiff seeks monetary damages for injuries to his lungs, which he alleges he had since the incident occurred. Summary judgment was entered against him and he lost the case, basically. So basically, what that shows is this particular prisoner has been had his issues with staff and has been going through issues with staff on a whole nother level. You know what I'm saying? Disagreement with staff, little arguments here and there is one thing, but taking these folks to court is another, and they pay attention to that. You know what I'm saying? Back to the article. They say Lester will also be charged with assaulting another inmate, Marco Willingham. According to the news release, when Clark was assaulted, the inmate he was escorting stepped in to help, which was when Lester allegedly assaulted him too. This is a developing story. We will continue to update this story, blah, 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 Georgia Department of Corrections. Now, condolences to Officer Clark and his family. Very sad right here, man. Rookie COs. Hope you're paying attention here. Who knows what this was over? You know what I'm saying? Very, very wild. See, the prisoner he stabbed is also serving a life sentence as well. So their lives were pretty much essentially already lost. And now this man's just solidified the fact that he's not going to get out of prison, more than likely, with his appeal for his initial sentence being denied. So that is crazy. Let me know what y'all think about this in the comments. DC The Voice, Alabama Prisoner Profiles. Out the gate.